Hey, what is up guys, I'm Xayah, and in this video we're going to be going over everything you need to know about Anima Squad, down to the units and the Anima Squad weapons. Before we start, most of us might not know what is Anima Squad. And Anima Squad is, if you activate the synergy, you're able to get one of these weapons down here. As you see from this clip, once you put down the Anima Squad units, you're able to pick one of two weapons that is in any random order given, and you're able to choose one of them to help you do extra damage on the board. And before you get confused, no, it is not an item you can place on units. It's just a power-up that you use from the synergy itself that comes out of the Anima Squad units. For the stats that Anima Squad gives is armor, magic resist, and damage amp. The units that make up Anima Squad is Aurora, which is a 5 cost, Illaoi, which is a 2 cost, Leona, a 4 cost, Seraphine, a 1 cost, Sylas, also a 1 cost, Vayne, a 2 cost, Xayah, a 4 cost, and Yuumi, a 3 cost. As you can see here, all these units do not really synergize with one another, besides Leona being a vanguard and Sylas also being a vanguard. The rest of the units do not share any synergies besides Anima Squad. Now we're going to be talking about our first unit, which is Seraphine, and she is a 1 cost unit. And Seraphine is a range unit that goes up to 4 hexes, and she has a mana pool about 60. Her ability is for her to fire a sound wave that can be AoE, but the first target it hits is the full amount of damage, and afterwards it reduces over time with each enemy hit. Essentially, you could throw like an anti-heal item on her and she can anti-heal multiple units. The items you kind of want to build around her is a mana item such as Spirit Sojourn, or you can build like an attack speed item for her to keep casting over and over, or you can just build an anti-heal item like Moralicon, and some sort of amp damage item such as Death Cap or Jewel Gauntlet, any AP item of that sort, because she's a magic damage unit. Her other synergy she has besides Anima Squad is Techie, and what Techie is basically Sorcerer from last set, where you just gain more AP for every Techie unit you have on the board. And on top of that, this synergy also provides damage reduction to enemies if you hit them, so they deal 10% less damage, but if you have 8 of them, they do 18% less. These numbers can change over time, this is just what we know in PvE so far. Next up we got is Sylas, and he's also a 1 cost unit. He has a 1 hex range, meaning he's a close range unit, and his mana pool is pretty medium sized, right around 75. His ability is he slams down his chains to do damage, and if he kills the unit, he gains extra health back. Only for that round though, it's not a permanent health that he gains. The type of damage that his ability does is magic damage, so he's basically an AP unit. The items you want to build around him is basically like Sunfire, Lord Monks, or Gargoyle Stoneplate, or any other tank items. These are just okay to build on him. His other synergy is Vanguard, and what Vanguards are is they gain a shield, and while they're shielded, they gain durability, meaning they take less damage, and after 10 seconds later, they gain more shields. Next up we got is Vayne, and she is a 2 cost unit with a range of 4 hexes. Her mana pool is pretty medium sized, which is around 60, and her ability, Bat Bolts, allows her to shoot 3 auto attacks in rapid succession. The first 2 bolts deal true damage, and the third one deals even more true damage. As you see from this clip here, you're not wasting any bolts, so if you kill the unit as your first or second bullet kills it, it will transfer the rest of the bolts to the next unit. The best items you can put on her is Gwynsu's Rage Blade, because she's an AD auto attacker. Having more attack speed will help her out a lot, and to amplify her damage, having a Guard Breaker is really good, or any AD items is fine, and IE is kind of a must to be honest, because it will make her true damage crit. The other synergy that she is that's not Anima Squad is a Slayer, and Slayer gives attack damage with Omnivamp. The cool thing about Slayer is if that Slayer unit is full HP, the Omnivamp that they will gain will transfer to another unit, with 50% of it will go to a different Slayer unit. Our other 2 cost unit we're going to be talking about here is Illaoi, and she is a close range unit with a medium sized mana pool, which is around 60, and her ability, what she does is she heals herself when she does an explosion around like a 1 hex radius, and it also reduces magic resist by a certain amount. The more she spams her ability, the more magic resist that the enemies loses. The items you want to put on her is basically like secondary tank items, which is like Sunfire or Protectors. War Monks is also fine as well, or if you want to play main tank items on her like Bramble and Declaw, feel free to do so. As of right now, I just see her as a secondary tank over a main tank. The other synergy that she is Bastion, and what Bastion does is it gives 10 armor and magic resist for the rest of your board, and Bastion users themselves gain bonus stats for the first 10 seconds. Next up we got is Yuumi, and she is a 3 cost unit with a 4 hex range, meaning that she is a range unit. Her mana pool is very tiny with around 30, so she's able to spam her ability a lot. The passive of her ability is she gains mana every certain amount of time, and the active of the ability is she's able to shoot like a little blue missile that you can barely see right here, and it hits the Braum and it bounces to the TF. If we slow it down here a little bit real quick, she shoots a missile that hits this bomb and it bounces to TF, which is this little missile here. And what this does is it leaves a mark on them. So if she hits him again with that mark on them, it does bonus damage. The items you want to build on her is blue buff, since her mana pool is very, very tiny and she's able to spam a lot with this item. And since she's a magic damage user, any AP items would work, like Death Cap and Joe Gauntlet. The other synergies that she has is Amp, and what Amp does for Yuumi specifically is she's able to hit more targets for the more Amp you have. So she can hit, instead of 2 units, it can hit like 3 or 4. The other synergy she is as well is Strategist, and Strategist gives you more stats depending on the front or back row. So the front row will give you more damage reduction for units, and the back row will give you more damage amp. Next up we got is Xayah, and she is a 4 cost unit with a hex range of 4, so she's a range unit. And her mana pool is pretty big, which is 75. And what her ability does is she's able to cast a bunch of feathers raining down. If that unit dies, it will spread the rest of the feathers to other units around them. So if you want to make this ability more effective, that means that you have to have heavy damage augments with heavy damage items so she can be more AoE-ish, since she's a single target user. The items you want to build around her is Spear Shojin, because you need her to keep casting her ability since her mana pool is pretty big, and you just build a lot of 80 damage amp stuff such as Guardbreaker with IE, since her ability can crit with IE. The other synergy that she is Marksman, and what Marksman does is it allows her to gain more AD for the more time that passes. Our other 4 cost unit we got here is Leona, and she's a close range unit with a really big mana pool of around 110, and her ability is, which we don't really need visuals for it because it's pretty simple, is when she activates her ability, she gains durability for about a certain amount of time, which is damage reduction, and after that time expires, she's able to explode within 2 hexes, stunning enemies around her for a certain amount of time, and any enemies that she hits with that stun takes bonus magic damage from anyone in your board. So Leona is probably one of the best tanks in this set currently, and since she is a tank, the items you want to put on her is main tank item, such as like Warmongs, Bramble, and Declaw. Her other synergy besides Anima is Vanguard. Like Sylas, she's able to gain a 10% shield, which gives her durability, and after a certain amount of time, she's able to gain more shield that also gives her durability. Next up we got is Aurora, and she's our 5 cost unit with a 4 hex range, meaning that she's a range unit. Her mana pool is pretty big with 80 mana size, and what her ability does is the left side most of your bench, it will be highlighted. That unit will swap places with Aurora, and until they die, she would come back to the board and do her ability damage. And what her ability is she's able to shoot like an AoE line that we see here, and she comes back in after that unit dies that she swapped places with, goes to the spot that she was last at, and just kills everything. The items you want to build on her is Spear Shojin, because her mana pool is pretty large, so you kind of need that mana item to keep casting more and more, or Adaptive Helm is also fine, since she's an AoE unit. Merlicon like anti-heal item is really good on her, or red buff or something like that. If you don't want anti-heal, you can do like a Nashor's too, so it can help her keep casting more and more. And some sort of amp damage that's AP, such as Jewel Gauntlet, Death Cap, or maybe even Archangel Staff, depending on what the meta calls for. Her other synergy is Dynamo, and what Dynamo is, for every 3 seconds, you gain more mana, and Dynamos gain 100% more of that effect. Now we're finally going to be talking about the Anima Squad weapons, and in this screen here, I categorize what each one does. So you see these 4 here does physical damage, these 5 here does magical damage, this one does true damage, and in order to have these 2 weapons, you need to have at least 10 Anima Squad on the board, or at least the synergy active to have 10 Anima. Depending which one you want to choose for either physical or magical damage, depending on what debuff item you have. For example, if you have Even Shroud or Last Whisper on the board, having a physical damage one will help a lot. If you have a Static Shiv or Onyx Spark, magical damage will probably be the best one to have. So it just depends on what items you have currently, it's depending on which ones you want to take. And we're gonna start off with our first weapon, which is the Annihilator. What this weapon does is, after a certain amount of time, it shoots a laser from the sky, hitting all enemies, doing true damage, and this only happens 1 time per round. Next up we got is the Gatling Bunny Guns. And what this weapon does is it shoots in a tight cone, basically like an MFLT, and it does physical damage. Next up we got is Tornadoes, and this weapon shoots out a bunch of Yasuo tornadoes in different directions, dealing magic damage. Next up we got is the Searing Short Bow, and what this weapon does is it shoots out an arrow from the sky, and once it lands, it plops down an AoE burn that just does magic damage over time. Next up we got is the Vortex Gloves, and what this weapon does is it shoots out multiple green balls that does piercing damage, meaning every time it hits a unit, it's the same amount of damage no no matter what, so technically it's an AoE ball that shoots everything. Next up we got is Anti-Mines, and what this weapon does is you just plop over some mines that does AoE physical damage. What we got is Guiding Hex, and I've actually never seen this weapon, but it might be a thing or it might not be. From what I'm seeing here, it just basically casts homing missiles that does magical damage to 3 random enemies. So yeah, I don't know if this exists yet or just in PvE doesn't exist yet because I've never seen this. Next up we got is Uwu Blasters, and what this weapon does is a single target weapon that just rapidly fires Jinx's minigun at a target for physical damage. Next up we got is Guiding Hex, and it's pretty similar to Uwu Blasters, but the difference is this one hits multiple targets and it hits 3 random units with magic damage. Next up we got is Bladeorang, and what this weapon does is it shoots out a boomerang that kind of lingers a little bit once it hits 1 unit and it comes back and it returns. Potentially it has a way of maybe being AoE depending on if units move around or not, but for the most part it'll just hit a single target for physical damage. Now for the fun ones where you can only get these weapons unless you have 10 anima, and the first one is Final City Transit, where it just summons a bunch of trains and just hitting everything on the board. For laughing giggles, if the unit is low enough, it could basically truck-kun a unit, meaning that you can yeet a unit off with the trains. Lastly, we're finally going to be talking about Surprise Supply Drop. This weapon is actually really powerful because it summons an aircraft that flies over your board, and this aircraft drops a supply where your whole board can get a radiant item. If the unit already has max slots, it will turn one of the items into a radiant. And that's it for everything you need to know about Anima Squad. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try to answer to the best of my capabilities. Also, if you want me to cover a different synergy, let me know as well. Until then, I'll see you guys on the next one. Later.
I don't need no light to see.